Now, as he has throughout the series, Dick Pryor joins us with a story of courage and commitment in Oklahoma World War II stories. Dick.
This evening's episode of The War, The Ghost Front, begins in December of 1944 and concludes in March of 1945, when the end of the war in Europe seemed imminent. For a young soldier who now calls Oklahoma home, that time was the most difficult period of his life, not because of the fighting, but because of the conditions he had to endure as a prisoner of war. 2 weeks after arriving in Great Britain in the fall of 1944, young Army Corporal Pendleton Woods found himself on the Western Front, in snow 8 inches deep, digging in against a German advance in the Ardennes forest.
The worst part was when if it ever got above freezing, that was the worst point, because that snow would begin to melt into these holes in the ground where we were sleeping. That's the worst part.
The worst, however, was yet to come. On December 10th, while on patrol behind enemy lines, Wood's unit was cut off by German troops. Out of ammunition, surrounded, and heavily outnumbered, the 7 Americans and 1 British bombardier were taken prisoner, held in an underground bunker near the Siegfried Line.
First, we kind of got acquainted with one another, telling about ourselves and where we're from and families and whatever we wanted to do. And finally, from that point, we started telling stories, different stories, anything to keep our mind off the situation we were in.
Woods remembers the 8 men had 1 blanket to fight the unrelenting cold.
Your feet are the thing you have to protect. So what we did in order was to share each other's body heat and to use that blanket, we took off our boots and we put our stocking feet together in kind of a wagon wheel style around a circle like that. And then we put where the feet were all together, touching one another, and then put the blanket over the middle to protect our feet.
Woods spent his 21st birthday with about 100 other prisoners jammed in a boxcar on a train to a German prison camp, Stalag 12A. Sanitation was poor, food was scarce, rooms were crowded at Stalag 12A. A Russian bombing raid killed 40 Americans 2 days before Christmas, but the survivors did not lose their spirit.
Somebody, either us or one of the guards, somebody had fashioned a Christmas tree, which was really just a dead limb with pieces of colored paper and cloth tied to it to represent decorations. But then outside in this compound, it was a large prison compound, each separated by barbed wire chain link fences. And in one of the other compounds, we heard a bunch of men singing Silent Night. And then we heard the best known probably of the Christmas hymns, And then we heard in another area, another group began to pick it up. And then all over the compound you could hear Silent Night, Holy Night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon Virgin Mother and Child, Holy Infant, so tender and mild. There wasn't any food. There was certainly no Christmas feast and hardly any food at all. But that's the way we celebrated Christmas of 1944.
Woods spent 5 months in German prison and labor camps, escaping on April 20th, 1945, Hitler's birthday. 5 days later, Penn Woods reached the American lines, and his ordeal as a prisoner of war was over.
It's the most difficult period in your life, but you learn how to appreciate the good life that we have. We also learn how to work together, to help one another, and how to share wings when there's so little bit to share. We literally carried one of our fellow prisoners back with us, whose feet had become so badly frozen from the cold that we had been in earlier that he was really unable to walk, but between us we literally carried him back to the American lines. That's the way we worked together.
By the time Pendleton Woods escaped, the war in Europe was almost over. He returned home and got his degree in journalism at the University of Arkansas. Woods became Public Information Officer for the 45th Infantry Division and served in that capacity during the Korean War. He achieved the rank of colonel in the National Guard and worked for many years as public relations specialist for OG&E. Penn Woods was chosen the nation's outstanding POW of 2005.
What a remarkable man.
He is.
How was he able to escape?
Well, what happened is late in the war, the Germans knew they were going to lose. And when the Russians started bombing the labor camp where they were held, they lost all interest in guarding the prisoners, so the prisoners were able to escape. Now, it's interesting that his bunkmate at the time was Clarence Deal, who lives in Jones, Oklahoma.
Whoa.
And every year for the last 60-plus years, on April 20th, they've called each other to celebrate Hitler's birthday, the day they escaped.
Good for them.
Well put, Dick.
That's great.
Quite a guy. Thanks.
Yes.